Here's another common problem that you face when making an art brush. Let's say I wanted to customize this character where I can stretch out his arms and legs as long as I want to. Well, if I made a regular artistic brush, I'm going to select this hand, go to New Brush, make it an art brush. I'm going to keep the default settings. We're going to stretch it to fit, and notice that it picked up on the correct direction from top to bottom. We're not going to worry about the colorization method. We'll just say OK. You can now see that I've got a hand as a brush by itself. Let's test it out. Got my brush tool, select the correct brush. When I click and drag, this is what it looks like. Well, it's doing what I want, but it's not exactly the style. It's stretching it along the path that I have, but it's distorting the final part of the hand. What I really want to do is just stretch the arm out and have the hand be exactly the same size. Well, the art brush does allow you to do this. Let's select it and create a new brush. I'm actually going to delete this brush by clicking the trash can and then saying yes. So we'll select the hand one more time. Make a new art brush. This time, instead of stretching it to fit the length, we're going to stretch it between guidelines. When I choose this, it gives me these starting and stopping guidelines, and I can click on them and change the starting and stopping point. Essentially, what I'm telling the computer to do is to stretch only in between that particular area. Everything else will remain exactly the same. So I'll start it from there to there. We'll keep everything else the same and say OK. Now I've got my new art brush. Now let's test this one out. Choose my brush tool. When I click and drag, this is what I'm left with. It's stretching just the arm and leaving the hand exactly the way it should be. If I created a custom brush for each of the hands and the legs, then I can have a really cool, stretchable, kind of cartoonish character. So let's do this for the leg as well. We'll select a leg, choose to create a, whoops, don't have the right tool. There we go, select a leg, choose to create a new art brush. Remember, we want it to stretch between the guidelines, and we'll set the guideline to be just below or just above the foot, and we'll even bring down the hip for there. We'll say OK to that. Now he's got a foot, and let's do one for the head. Make a new art brush. We'll stretch it between the guidelines. Notice that this one is going from the top all the way down. We may want to flip that. I'll have the starting point be down here. And we'll set the guidelines, in this case, be just below his chin and just above the shoulder area. When we say OK, now I've got a brush for his head, for his leg, and also for his arms. Let's test each one of these out and see what they look like. So if I wanted to give him some long arms, be sure to set your fill color to none. There we go. Long arms and a set of long legs and even a head with a long neck. And I can have it turned different ways. Longer neck going this way as well. So this is just kind of a fun, simple thing to do, but it does come in handy every once in a while when you need to stretch elements that don't stretch the entire thing. You want to keep the edges looking similar as well. Some of the default brushes that this really comes in handy are these decorative border or ribbon type brushes. So if I selected this one, if I was to click and draw off, I can make a ribbon go any particular way. Notice that the ends of them don't stretch out. It's only this center part that stretches along that particular area. However, this ribbon doesn't work too well. If I was to click and drag, you can see the edges are starting to stretch out way too much. So that's another thing to keep in mind when using this particular artistic brush.